Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking a new video, man. It means a lot that you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making it. Today we're talking about an episode of Survivor that made me feel feelings. Guys, this does not happen a lot. I know I'm a robot sometimes, but this episode I actually felt feelings. So you know what? Congrats to the casting here. With the predicament that the castaways were put in this episode, I was captivated to a certain extent. Obviously, a lot of it was kind of cringy, all of the feelings. But I think there's more good than bad here. And as someone who often complains about this new era, I really can't find much to complain about in this episode. But let's get into it. If you guys haven't already, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff because it's free, it's easy, and it really does help the channel out. Okay, so following a tribal council where he got a couple votes for the first time, Yam Yam brought his usual, fun self back to camp in order to make sure that there wasn't any awkwardness with anyone that voted for him. He knew that he'd still be vulnerable and wanted to remain included in the group rather than, just further ostracizing himself from the group. He called it, doing his best Yam Yam thing. And it seemed to work well with everyone who was laughing. But he's in trouble here. He's just in serious trouble. And with what happens in the episode, we'll see he's in even more trouble. Matt was happy to wake up with the realization that he could finally vote at tribal council for the first time, because the previous one was his second tribal where he couldn't vote. He's feeling kind of reinvigorated by this, and with the support of Franny and having an idol in his pocket, he's just a lot happier. Now later, Brandon brought up the Burge Cage idols with Matt and pointed out that there were two on the Ratu beach, a real one and a fake one. Matt realized that he had never found both, and so he thinks that he found the second, or the fake idol, that was left by someone else, and he suspects Danny. He is 100% right. And of course, now he's looking at Danny as a big threat in the game because he tricked him. At least that's what Matt thinks, and he is correct. Meanwhile, Danny is on campaign to throw Lauren under the bus here for this next vote as a way of purging her extra vote that just about everyone in the game knows about. Matt then pulls Franny, Kane, and Carson in for a chat where he talks about possibly doing a Danny blindside next. That news let Carson know that the game was dividing between Ratu and Soka, or the Orange Tribe and Green Tribe, and that would leave him, Carolyn, and Yam Yam, the Tika people, in a really good spot in the middle. At the challenge, of course, Jeff drops the bomb that they are competing as two groups. Really, it's 5 versus 5. Each group will play, but it's a full individual immunity challenge, and they'll go until one person's left. But the last person standing from each group will be guaranteed immunity. Then from there, out of those last 2 people, the person who lasts the longest will win immunity for their respective group, meaning that in total, there will be 5 people immune from one group, then 1 immune for the person who's the last standing from the quote-unquote losing group. And on top of that, the person who didn't get chosen, because there's an odd number of people in the game right now, who is Carson, will be immune. That's 7 total people immune. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't really get this twist. I don't understand what they're trying to go for. Clearly, they really like to minimize the game down and make it simpler. But I think that's kind of the whole point, is at this point in the game, you only have a selected amount of rounds where you have this many people on one beach. Don't waste it on this minimizing game. Maximize the game as much as possible instead of shrinking the game down back to the pre-merge, which I think is just doing the game a disservice. Of course, at the challenge, we see it come down to Franny versus about 4 people on the other team. Franny beats out every single one of them. Now, Brandon is the last one to survive from that losing team, so he's immune. Then Franny and her whole team is immune. And then on top of that, Carson is immune because he bet on the right team. That's 7 total. Before Jeff sent the players away, he instructed the losing tribe to return to the old Soka beach, where they'd be isolated from their new camp and the other players. And this is where Matt realized immediately that he had left his bag back at camp, so he'd be without his shot in the dark advantage, as well as his idol that he thinks is fake, but it could still be real. He was proud of Franny, but also knew he was in a horrible spot. At the reward picnic, the 6 winners were excited to eat, peanut butter and jelly, and they focused on, discussing the probabilities of Yam Yam and Matt going home. They feel like it's Yam Yam or Matt because the other 3 people on the losing tribe are Jamie, Brandon, and Lauren, all people from the Ratu tribe, so they're all from one tribe. And again, Carolyn felt really isolated yet again. She was bringing up that obviously it's going to be Yam Yam, and they were all saying, well, it could be Matt or Yam Yam. And she, meaning Carolyn, thinks that Yam Yam is not very connected. So she thinks it's a done deal and it has to be Yam Yam going home. At the old Soka camp, Brandon is very, very upset about their loss, but he's also not, because he's completely immune. And he knows now that him, Jamie, and Lauren have a majority and can pick between Matt and Yam Yam. And so, of course, Matt has the other impression. He's not excited at all, knowing that he's without any support on this beach and that he needs to plead to this Raw 2-3 to stay. He tried to option Lauren as a vote to Brandon and Jamie, but Brandon shot down the idea immediately. From there, his only choice was to say that he would vote out Jam Jam. Brandon admitted that he voted for Jam Jam last time and wouldn't mind him going home, since it was possible that Jam Jam would eventually come for him. Elsewhere, Jam Jam talked to Lauren, who told him that she wants Matt out of the game because of his Soka ties and the fact that the game is now kind of turning from Soka to Raw 2. And after lunch, the winning tribe comes back and they basically go on a hunt for an advantage. This advantage, basically in the end, gives the person who finds it the ability to change one person out of that group of 5 who's voting, change one person's vote. So it's kind of like a steal a vote, except no one's stealing it. Someone from the outside looking in, from this group of 5 that is immune, who's watching tribal basically from the jury spot, will get to change one person's vote, who is actually voting to whoever they want. And it's Heidi who finds it. Heidi is a very interesting choice because her edit's been very minuscule to this point, but she finds it. And of course, this is now changing everything, because as an audience, we see a lot of extra strategy going on. Maybe, 2 votes is a majority on this tribe, depending on what happens. But of course, the players on the tribe have no idea. Back at the old Soka beach, Matt is missing Franny. Of course, he's getting very emotional. And he was hoping that maybe she would notice his bag back at camp and bring it to tribal in order to save him and give him his bag so that he could play his shot in the dark. At this point, we also see him try to sway Yam Yam to vote with him instead of them going after each other, because he thinks that maybe the 3 would split their votes in fear of an advantage, and they would obviously, them 3 would split their votes 2-1, and then Yam Yam and Matt being 2 would tie up the vote 2-1. I don't know how well that'll turn out in the long run, but it's at least an idea that does in fact pop up. With Heidi's advantage now in play, the winning group kind of discussed what their options could be to change the vote, how they wanted. People were trying to convince Heidi to do what they wanted to do. Franny, tried to convince Heidi to essentially put the vote on Yam Yam because she wanted to save Matt. Of course, Carolyn wanted to save Yam Yam. And of course, she also thought that she could use it to save both Yam Yam and Matt in order to get Lauren out instead. But Franny pushed back, thinking that the smarter move is, again, just to go her way. And Danny was still focused on getting rid of Lauren's 2 votes so that he was on board for targeting Lauren. And it's very iffy here. Heidi actually spoke to Kane later and considered actually allowing Matt to be taken out because he knows that he's closer to Franny. And Franny, of course, and Matt are a giant threat together as a couple. So it's all up in the air at this point. And we really get the tribal here, where we do see Matt basically get really emotional, talking about how he feels like he has no chance, and he was pleading for his life. And you do feel bad here, and you almost feel angry that he was put in the spot by a bad twist. But I'll give the show credit. As much as they made this problem by having a bad twist, they also shows that they have good casting, because I did care about the person being screwed, and that he felt like it was worth a shot to campaign, him being Matt. The same with Yam Yam. He was also making an emotional plea as well. 2 guys that are really, really desperate here. Of course, when it's time to vote, Heidi ends up stealing Lauren's vote and putting it on Yam Yam. At this point, Lauren asks Jeff, since it's kind of public info, about her extra vote rules and if she can still use her extra vote, or if that's now taken away as well. And of course, Jeff says that you can still use your extra vote. And she actually doesn't end up using it, probably because she was already going to vote for Jam Jam here. But the vote is 3-2. Matt goes home here in a heartbreaker. He's sobbing, he's crying. He tells Franny, great job at the challenge. It's a very sad moment. It's the end of a love story. But tell me what you guys thought about it in the comments. Was this episode good, okay, bad? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, none of this happens without you guys. Without you guys, I'm just a weird guy speaking to a weird microphone. And that's how I'll talk to you guys in the next one.